Hey, greetings. Thank you for coming. Thank you for tuning in and joining us today on the Come Up Investing 101. My name is Jason Mitchell. I'll be your moderator for tonight, and I really appreciate the opportunity to serve. So we have a lot of information to cover. So first thing I would suggest is grabbing a pen and a pad because you're gonna want to take notes today. It'll be really good. The other thing that I would suggest is if you have questions, feel free to toss them into the comment box. Okay, it's going to be a lot of information to cover, so we'll get to as many questions if possible as possible. We should have enough time to get through everything, but enjoy. It's really good to have this information to share. So, without further ado, I would love to introduce a member of the community impact team that's actually going to talk about time and why it's valuable and important. So, Brother Ron, if you're ready, I think that'll be great.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ron Reddick, and I bring you greetings from the community impact team of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity, Incorporated. We are pleased to announce a new initiative called T.I.M.E, which stands for Theta Men Improving Through Mental Empowerment. T.I.M.E is an awareness and engagement initiative to educate individuals on the importance of mental health, legal wellness, and financial wellness. We have a lot of future programming around these pillars scheduled for 2022. So be on the lookout for more webinars and social media content. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I will now turn it back over to our moderator, Brother Jason Mitchell.
Hey, thank you, brother. Thank you so much for that information. So, without further ado, let's get started with tonight. So first up, we have Brother Zachary Wilson, who will be discussing financial planning and all things that entails. So, Brother Zachary, thank you, man.
Thank you very much for that great introduction, Brother Mitchell. I just want to thank everybody who's taking some time out of their day to tune in with us. The information that we have to give, I feel like, is very important. We're in a very crucial and important moment for Black people, first and foremost. Living in the information age and day of technology, we should have control over our financial freedom, as well be able to help those around us navigate a lot of these complex issues. I know that for me growing up in Miami, my family, we didn't talk about money. We didn't talk about investing. We didn't talk about finances. So a lot of the things that I had to learn was through being in the business, but also making a lot of mistakes while going through my journey in college and as a young adult. And so one quote that sticks with me as we begin to kind of go through this tonight is that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. It's an old African proverb. And so we want to discuss some of the foundational pieces that will help you get closer to your financial freedom through investing and accumulating assets, home ownership, and owning physical assets and protecting those assets through vehicles such as life insurance. The other speakers on the panel are great and have years of expertise as well. So I'm thankful to be up here with them. First slide, brother. And so no investor is better known or more successful than Warren Buffett. He's one of the richest men in the world and the manager of Berkshire Hathaway, which is a publicly traded company. And so he has over 300 billion in net worth within his investment group. And so one of the things that he kind of speaks to as a whole continuously is that your goal as an investor should be to simply purchase at a rational price, a part interest in an easily understandable business whose earnings are virtually certain to be materially higher 5, 10 to 20 years from now. And so a lot of times when I'm dealing with clients in that initial phase of kind of having questions around what types of things should I invest in, think about like your daily household things. Do you have an iPhone? Do you have an iPad? Do you have a MacBook? Then Apple stock is something that you should definitely start purchasing. Think about where you get your groceries from. Walmart, Target. These are all publicly traded companies. And so if you own a lot of apparel, if you buy Adidas or you're a big Jordan fan or Nike fan, Adidas and Nike are also publicly traded companies that you can start to invest some of your dollars in as well. And so we shouldn't think of investing as a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a journey, and it'll take time to reach that goal, but you want to invest into quality companies. And one thing you should do is always know yourself. If you don't feel comfortable owning something for 10 years, then don't own it for 10 minutes. And so these are some of the things, some of the quick hits that we want to kind of just show you as far as to the state of Black affairs at this moment, where Black America is as a whole. Black spending power is at its highest that it's ever been. It's at $1.6 trillion in spending power on a yearly basis. But through the time from 2001, Black net worth has fallen $4,000. So it was $28,000 in 2001, and in the year 2022, it's currently $24,000. And so that's an alarming number, is that how do we have more spending power at this point, but that our net worth is a lot less than it was in 2001. And at the same time, the stock market was up 27% last year. And so these are things that we have to think about when thinking about where are we actually using our money. While treading water during the global pandemic, Black net worth has decreased. We need to be more intentional with the way that we use and spend our money. We need to focus more on recirculating more of that capital within our own community, and also increasing home ownership, and work on spending money that on buying assets that will appreciate over time. And this is just one other one as in regards to just singular stock positions as a whole. Only 34% of Black American households own individual stocks. And this is outside of a 401k plan that you may have through an employer, as in comparison to 61% of white families. And this is according to the Federal Reserve Board in 2019. And so this is one of those areas of opportunity that we have right away, where we can make up some of that ground and start to invest more into stocks, which has been proven to be one of the biggest ways to build wealth over a long period of time. And so how do we do this? And how do we get started within investing? So how do investments keep up with inflation? It's through the power of compounding. Compound interest over a long period of time will always be something that serves you in your investments. Over the time, that growth snowballs. And so this is just an example of a 25-year-old who starts investing $100 per month over a period of 40 years. And after that 40-year period, the total amount that he's invested is only $48,000. But thanks to the power of compounding and compound interest, the money that you invested has grown to be $239,562. And this is just assuming that you have like a normal rate of return, about 7%, which is the average of the S&P 500. Just look at the comparison. That's about 5 times the amount of money that you contributed. And so now you have this money that you can either use for your own business or for retirement as well. And so this is just wanting to speak about starting early a little bit more. And so this is just some examples as far as to, if you were to begin investing early at the age of 25, how much money would I need to invest to get to $250,000? How much money would I need to invest on a reoccurring basis to get to $500,000 by the age of 65? And we're using 65 because that's the normal age of retirement for Americans within the United States at this point. And so you see that every 10 years that you wait to start investing, that the amount that you need to contribute more than doubles. Thanks to the power of compound growth, one of the best ways to build wealth is by saving and invest that money over a great period of time. And the longer you wait, the more disservice that you're doing your future self within getting to the point of being financially free, but also reaching the goals that you have for yourself to be able to do all of the things that you want to do for yourself and your family at any time and at any place. And so stocks are shares of ownership in a company. They're also called equities. Stocks have historically offered the greatest potential for returns. A stock can appreciate in price, or some stocks can also pay dividends if a company distributes those earnings to shareholders. One of the big risks in investing in the individual stocks is also that share price can decrease. Companies can go bankrupt. But some of the big benefits are that you are ability to have voting shares within a company, so you can invest on different changes, such as the board of director changes. You can approve those. Also, you benefit from the increase in price and also dividends that we kind of talked about. And so another way that you can start your investing journey, but also diversify yourself, is through bonds. Bonds are kind of like IOUs. Basically, I lend money to a company or a government body, and they promise to pay me back this amount in a certain period of time. In the meantime, I get a predictable income stream for the interest payments on the bond. And so basically how it works is that, say I give $1,000 to Apple for 5 years. And so basically, after that 5-year period is up, Apple has to give me back that $1,000 that I loaned to them. But in the meantime, they're going to give me $50 twice a year to hold my money. And so in this way, it gives you $100 in income that you get on a yearly basis. But at the end of that 5-year period, you also get your full investment back, which is that full $1,000. And so bonds are a lot less volatile than individual stocks. And so it's a great way to diversify your portfolio. But some things to consider also with bonds are that inflation risks. As interest rates rise, bond prices decrease. Also, your issuer may call your bond. So if interest rates are more favorable for the party, then they may issue a call on that bond, giving you that money back. Or if you're investing into more high yield or more risky companies, that the issuer may go bankrupt. So you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and make sure you're doing research before investing into any type of asset. One of the greatest ways to begin your journey into investing is through mutual funds and ETFs. So mutual funds and ETFs are a way to invest into the stock market without purchasing individual securities. I know a lot of times it can be really difficult or cumbersome to kind of think of which companies you want to invest in. And so you get a lot of exposure into a lot of different companies through mutual funds and ETFs. Many workplace retirement plans, such as 401ks, offer a selection of mutual fund investments to employees. The main benefits of mutual funds and ETFs are that you have professional management. So you are paying for someone else who has been into the industry for a long time to research and pick out the investments for you. A lot of times I just like to say, think of mutual funds and ETFs as a bag of Skittles. And so basically the mutual fund is the bag, and all of the individual stocks and bonds that are inside of that mutual fund are the Skittles. And so some of the different vehicles that you can use when starting to invest and specifically wanting to know more and start your journey with retirement planning are through employee sponsored plans. So the 3 most common employee sponsored plans are 401ks, 403bs, and 457s. Private companies offer 401ks, while 403bs are typically offered by public schools and certain nonprofits and hospitals, and 457s are generally offered by state and local governments. While these employee retirement accounts may be really beneficial to get into, you can deduct your contributions through your paycheck. The IRS limits your annual contributions to an employee-sponsored plan to $19,500. Whether your employer has an employer-sponsored plan or not, you can also invest into an individual retirement account, which is an IRA. So these have the ability to invest in mutual funds, individual stocks, bonds, also annuities, and certain types of real estate. So it gives you a more broad range of different investments that you can invest in. And if you are below the age of 50, you can contribute up to $6,000 per year. And if you are over the age of 50, then they give you an additional $1,000 that you can contribute. So that's $7,000 on a yearly basis. And so one of the questions that I get a lot of times when dealing with clients is asking me whether they should invest into traditional or Roth accounts. So traditional accounts are pre-tax dollars. And so what that basically means is that your money goes in before any taxes are taken out. Some of the benefits of doing this is that you can lower your taxable income so that you can get a bigger return when you do file your taxes for the year. The money grows tax-free. But also one thing to consider is that your money will be taxed once you reach retirement age when you begin to withdraw that money. So keep in mind that Uncle Sam always wants to get his share. The other type of contributions that you can do are after-tax contributions with our Roth contributions. For any person that is still young in age, I would say you may really want to look into Roth contributions. They can be really beneficial over the long term. Some of the big benefits are that since you are in a lower tax bracket now, and as you go through the early stages of your career, the amount of money that you make is on a lower scale than what you want it to be over the long term. And so you're paying taxes on that money now, but so in doing so, when you get to the point of retiring, all of this money is tax-free for you. And so you don't have to worry about any taxes once you reach retirement age. So all of that money is completely free for you to use in any way that you determine, whether that be going on vacations, whether that be opening up your own business, or anything of that sort. Another thing that I just want to kind of touch on really briefly for you is budgeting. I know a lot of people think that budgeting isn't something that they necessarily need to worry about. Other people don't budget and they do just fine. My answer to that is always, have you seen other people's finances? So one thing to consider with is that you do want to take an account of where your money is going. I mean, I think that every dollar that you earn is an employee. And so you want to have these employees working for you in your best interest. So be honest with yourself about the goals that you have, where your dollars are actually going. Do an analysis of a monthly statement for your bank statement. See what type of subscription services that you have that you may not be utilizing or that you may not necessarily need, and kind of trim the fat there and decide that you can kind of use that money to move it into your savings or to invest. Pay yourself first. Anytime you get paid, I always recommend for my clients to put some money away into their investments. By doing this right away, it takes out the hassle of kind of trying to pay all the other bills and then think about, oh, if I have enough money to be able to contribute a little bit to my IRA. And the other part is that, do you know where your money is going each and every month? We kind of talked about this. You want to go through a full budget analysis to see exactly where your money is going. So get a printout of your bank statement, get a printout of your credit card statements, so you can see exactly where you are spending money and what is a realistic amount of money that you should be spending on each of these things on a monthly basis. Okay, so dollar cost averaging is something that I think everyone that is beginning on their journey or has been investing for a long time should utilize and take advantage of. It basically is an investment strategy in which an investor divides up the total amount of the investment over a periodic of purchases in a target asset class. And so basically how that works is that if I have $6,000 that I want to invest over a year, I can split that up into $500 a month, or I can split that up to even less as far as having $250 per paycheck. And so what happens by dollar cost averaging into your investments is that you can basically confirm that you'll never buy at the high or at the low. Through the average of all of your investments, the average cost of your investments will always be lower than whatever the current market price is. And so another thing to keep in mind, guys, is that this is your financial future. Think about the goals and the dreams that you have for yourself. I feel that writing them down so that you can see them really helps to kind of get yourself to a place of actualizing, visualizing where you want to go over the next few years. Determine your wants versus your needs. I know a lot of times we do want to go on a lot of trips. We all want to go to Tulum. We all want to show off for the gram, but at the same time, a lot of the things that we buy on a day-to-day basis aren't things that we need. They're more so wants. So take into account of that. And from there, make a plan, implement that plan on a monthly, weekly, annual, and yearly basis. And all plans won't go exactly how you want. You know, life will always throw you some type of curveball. But at the end of the day, you want to make those adjustments and then go from there. Stay informed about different options that you have, and be flexible. Don't worry about if you have a shortcoming, if you don't contribute as much as you wanted to one year. Just adjust and continue to make those goals for yourself moving forward. And the last thing that I want to leave you guys with tonight is that what is one asset that every investor must have? Time. The most valuable thing that you will have in your investing journey is time. It's the most important tool. Time is the engine of investing. You need it no matter what asset class you buy. It's also important to remember that you will never have more time than you do today. So starting your investing journey today will definitely serve your future self.
Brother Zachary, great information, man. I appreciate the information that you shared. One question, one thing that I loved about it is one of the things that you said, which is every dollar that you earn is an employee, which means every dollar that you have has a mission, right?
Yes.
So with that, you want to make sure that you're protecting that as much as possible. The one thing that everyone in the world is talking about, right, and every Facebook professional is talking about is NFTs and Bitcoin and the whole nine. What do you think of that strategy as far as long-term, short-term versus long-term investing? And do you think it's smart for people to invest in that first?
So I wouldn't say that investing into cryptocurrencies and especially not NFTs should be one of the things that you begin your investing journey doing. Um, as we see with some of the tensions that are going on within the world, these type of asset classes can be quite volatile. So things to consider is always beginning with index funds. S&P 500 index funds are a great way to get into the market, invest into some of the most profitable companies and gain exposure into all of them. But I also tell my clients, as you go into this day and age of information and technology, you do want to have some exposure into cryptocurrency because at some point it will be normalized. But that should never be the majority of your portfolio. But you do want to have that type of diversification. But investing into index funds, mutual funds, and ETFs should be some of the things that you should consider when starting your financial journey.
Got it, brother. Well, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciated this information. It's been very, very valuable, man. So I appreciate it. Brothers, if y'all have questions, make sure you're adding them in the comment section because there may be a little bit of time at the end where we can get to them. But while people are speaking, feel free to also chime in as well. But yeah, Brother Wilson, thank you, man. This is great.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. So next person that we have up is going to talk about mortgages and the ability to be prepared for the mortgage experience. So this is Brother Ananias Tate. Brother Ananias, are you ready for us, sir?
Let's get into it.
All right, man.
All right. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight to get this information. As Brother Mitchell mentioned at the beginning of the call, we hope you're taking notes. It's something that I heard that note takers are like money makers or movie shakers or something. One of those little sayings. If you know the exact saying, put it in the comments for us because that really makes sense. If you're taking notes, you're preparing yourself to do something well in the future. So the reason for me being here tonight is to give you a high level. I'm just going to touch kind of the top surface of mortgage readiness. So with being mortgage ready, whenever I'm having conversations with my clients, we're really looking to get them prepared in some form or fashion to become a homeowner. If not today, then maybe tomorrow is, the time where they'll be ready. So tonight we're going to jump into that, and I'm going to kind of go through my presentation is basically a consultation that I have with my clients and things that we talk about and some of those factors that hinder them from being prepared to get a mortgage today. Okay, let's go to that first slide. All right, so one of the biggest things that hinder a lot of us from doing a lot of things in life, right? If we're looking at utilizing somebody else's money as as far as a lender goes, it's going to be our credit. Our credit scores, our credit profile is something that, in order for us to be ready to take this financial journey in home ownership, becoming a real estate investor, right? We want to make sure our credit allows us to do that. And so here I just have just a basic definition of what a credit score is. It's just a mathematical formula that the companies use, and it says how likely you are to repay the money that we allow you to borrow from us. Okay. Pay attention to this image here. So this image is from myfico.com, and it basically outlines what makes up your credit scores. Okay. So 35% of your credit score is made up of payment history. What that is, I pay my bills on time when they're due, right? I may not pay them all the time when they're due, but at least I'm paying them before they're 30 days late, right? So as long as you're making your payments on your bills before they're 30 days late, you won't get a hit on your credit score. Now, you may pay what I call the stupid tax for paying late fees to the lender or something like that, but it won't necessarily hurt your credit scores. So just keep that in mind. Take notes of that. If I have to be late, if I don't have enough money to do what I need to do right now, right, I want to make sure that I get my funds in place to where I can at least make that full payment, not a partial payment, full payment within 30 days. Okay. The next section here just talks about the 30% is your amounts owed. So a lot of us, when we're building credit, we may be familiar with a secured credit card. Secured credit card, I think, is beneficial for everybody who's rebuilding credit or establishing credit. Essentially, what a secured credit card is a tool that you deposit your money into, right? So doesn't matter how much it is. It could be $1,000. It could be $250. But what this does is your money is used as collateral for your credit line, right? So you would, and I'll tell you things not to do, right? So essentially, you have a $250 credit line on your credit card with money that you've put up as collateral, and you're gonna just make purchases with your money, the bank's money, right? But the bank will report to the credit bureau how you're managing that account, how you're making those payments. And so that helps us uh, build credit and also kind of reestablish credit if we ever get in the point to where we've made a lot of bad decisions with our credit. That's probably the easiest low hanging fruit as far as getting your credit up. And so in my example, if I have $1,000 credit line, a lot of the online forums, and when you talk to people who may do, some type of credit repair, credit restoration, different articles, the recommendation is to keep your credit utilization at 30% or less, right? I don't believe in utilizing any of my credit, right? So if I use my credit card, I'm going to pay it off that month, right? And I may not use that credit card for another couple months. What I'm doing with that particular strategy, right, is so if my credit profile says that I have available credit at $1,000, I'm always going to have that available credit. And so that keeps my 30% of my credit score intact. That's a very simple way to look at it, but that keep it simple and you will do well with building your credit or keeping your credit at a good level. The next section just talks about 15% is your length of credit history. And what that is, it's how long you've had accounts open. So if you've had accounts opened or you've had a credit card, auto loan, student loans is something that I tell everybody because the majority of us had them at some point, right? That's a good avenue or a good tool to just kind of keep in place, right? We want to pay it off, but we want to use that to help build our credit profile. It helps with our length of credit because for a lot of us, that's going to be our oldest credit line. And so as long as we manage our credit lines that we've had for some time, keep them in good standing, right, we'll be able to kind of maximize that 15%. The next two, 10 for new credit and credit mix. Basically, that's different type of accounts. So they're really two basic type of accounts. They're installment accounts and then they're revolving accounts. An installment account has a set end date. So an installment account would be an auto loan. So you go to a car dealership, you get an auto loan. I don't want you getting an auto loan when you're getting a mortgage, but this is my example, right? So you're getting your auto loan and it's for 60 months. After 60 months that you've made your payments on time, that account is closed, right? A revolving account is what I mentioned earlier, a secured credit card or a credit card. That card stays open until you or the creditor decides that you no longer want to have a relationship with one another. So revolving accounts, they stay open, and that's the easiest way for us to build and establish our credit. Okay. So credit scores, just be mindful of really if you make your payments on time or without being 30 days late, you've accomplished a lot there. Then managing your balances as far as like your revolving accounts, it's not really a whole lot you can do with your installment accounts because they're going to decrease as time goes. But your revolving accounts, pay close attention to those because those can make or break you 40 or 50 points at any time if you're overutilizing those accounts and you're overutilizing your available credit line. Okay, next slide, please. All right. So another thing that I talk about or that we talk about, or even when you're doing your research online to get information about obtaining a mortgage, right? You hear about debt to income ratio or debt ratio. The back end ratio is usually the term that we use in the industry. But essentially, what that is, it's your monthly credit that you have report on your credit report. So there's your auto loans, any type of loans, credit cards, mortgages, things like that. That's your monthly credit reported debt divided into your gross monthly income. Okay. And this is the way that we look at your ability to potentially pay back the loan or pay back the funds that we're allowing you to utilize to purchase your home. I know a lot of individuals when they're thinking about like their debt to income ratio, they feel like that, hey, I make, in this example, we'll say I make $2,000 a month. Okay. So I make $2,000 a month and my debts are at $500 a month. Okay. So my debt ratio is at 25%, right? So I could afford a mortgage of $1,500 a month because I make enough money to pay it. Well, when you're looking at getting financing from the mortgage institutions, we look at your debt to income ratio differently because the different agencies that we work with have their requirements as far as your debt to income ratio goes. So be mindful of if you're thinking about or when you're ready to start this process, try to keep your debt as minimal as possible, right? So do not purchase a car, okay? It's tax time, you got the money, do not purchase a car. That's something that hurts a lot of people, especially when they're looking to purchase their first home, investment properties, because now they have too much debt to qualify for the financing. And auto loans, followed by student loans, are kind of one of those biggest hindrance or kind of it slows your process down in being able to obtain a mortgage. So be mindful, try to keep your debts down. If you have too much debt now, don't hesitate to speak to a mortgage professional. Reach out to me if you have questions because a lot of people have been in positions to purchase a home for years now, right? But they were afraid. They read the online forums, they listened to their cousin, right? Their cousin did everything great. Not true. Okay. So feel free to reach out if you're thinking about doing it. My information is flashing across the screen now. You can reach me on Facebook, Ananias Tate. There's my email and ask questions. Questions will get you a lot further down the road. A lot of people are ready now, but they haven't asked the right question. Okay. Next slide, please. All right. So another topic of conversation that comes up is down payment. A lot of people have not prepared to become a homeowner. they've put no money aside in order to provide the minimum required investment into themselves, right? I said investment, right? Because you're paying yourself. People haven't saved. They aren't prepared to become a homeowner. So a down payment is essentially your upfront investment into your property. There's been misconceptions for several years that in order to purchase a home, you have to have 20% down. Not likely for a lot of us, right? We don't have access to those funds because some of us are just living paycheck to paycheck, which we have strategies, right, with investing to kind of help with those things. So stay tuned to this entire presentation because you will hear some useful information that'll help you kind of overcome some of those challenges. Okay. All right. So along with a down payment, there are things called mortgage closing costs. Mortgage closing costs, they're your responsibility, right? When you're looking to purchase a home, there are certain costs that accompany that process, right? Mortgage closing costs in the past, before the pandemic, it was something in certain markets that the seller would contribute to a home buyer. They would assist with providing funds to help you cover your closing costs. It isn't as prevalent today because currently we're in an inventory shortage, right? So sellers don't have to give you anything. And in a lot of cases, you're going to pay more for the home than maybe listed in, on realtor.com or Zillow or kind of whichever platform you use, right? But mortgage closing costs are on the slide there, a couple examples of kind of what they are. Their origination costs for your lender to handle your financing, appraisal fees, title company fees, setting up your escrow account that pays your taxes and insurance for you on an annual basis, and just kind of other miscellaneous third-party fees. Some states require surveys. That's a part of your closing costs as well. Okay, so having money set aside to handle down payment and closing costs is highly encouraged. There are programs available, right, that can assist you with down payment and closing costs, but sometimes those programs aren't ideal for every individual because everybody's different. I hear this a lot. My cousin used a down payment assistance program. Everybody's different. It may not benefit you to use that same program today. Okay. All right. So on this slide, I've listed just the four common mortgage types. Conventional loan, which a lot of us have heard about. And this is where that misconception, right, that I have to have 20% down in order to purchase a home. A conventional loan is simply a loan that's not insured or guaranteed by a government agency. Okay. This is probably the loan that you're more established. Maybe, maybe not. But some of them may utilize that maybe have a little bit more income, may have a little bit higher credit score and a better credit profile. They may utilize a conventional loan. Everybody's different. So speaking with the mortgage professional could definitely help hone you in on which product you should really look at using. The next one is an FHA loan. This is a loan that's super friendly to first-time home buyers. The reason I said super friendly to first-time home buyers is because you don't have to have perfect credit, and it only requires a 3.5% down payment. So in my market here, I live in Arkansas. So my market, probably 90% of my buyers utilize an FHA loan because they may not have the best credit. They may not have prepared to become a homeowner as far as working with credit, nor saving funds for like down payment and closing costs. So this is an extremely valuable vehicle to help you become a homeowner. The next one is a VA loan. This loan is exclusively set aside for service members, veterans, and eligible surviving spouses. Okay. This loan will allow a veteran or service member to obtain a mortgage without putting anything down. So 100% finance. In this particular scenario, I'm going to reference a first-time home buyer, right? So sometimes that could be a little different depending on the scenario, but for us, we're novice, we're first-time home buyers, right? And so we're going to utilize a VA loan. So utilizing the VA loan, I have some comfortability to say that I don't have to have a down payment. Still important to plan, right? Prepare. Having down payment funds would only help you, right? You may not necessarily have to use them for the loan, but it can definitely help you because closing costs, it doesn't go anywhere, right? Closing costs are going to be a part of every transaction that you have. So having funds set aside could definitely help with obtaining the mortgage and obtaining the mortgage the way you want to obtain the mortgage. Okay. And VA loans are typically for your primary residence. Okay. So you're looking to buy a house that you're going to live in. You would utilize a VA loan. Okay. The next common loan is a USDA loan. And this loan is strictly tailored, as it says here in the definition, no down payment and for rural home buyers. Okay. So this is another loan product that doesn't require you to have a down payment, but there's some restrictions with this product, right? You have to live in a rural area. So depending on where you are in the country, rural areas look different. Here in Arkansas, rural areas are right next door to me. Okay. If I live in Little Rock, I can go 2 miles down the street, 10 miles down the street, and I'm in an area that could qualify for USDA financing. As I mentioned, no down payment requirement here, but it's important, right, to have funds available because you will need them for either one of these products, right? Whether you use them on the loan or you use them when you move into the house. If anybody's purchased a house, you spend so much more money once you move into the house, just getting it the way you want to. So being prepared and having those funds set aside would definitely be beneficial to you in the long run. Next, please. Okay, so what I have here in this image, this is just a snippet from a marketing piece of material that I found online. And the reason I want to bring attention here is so when you're seeing these banner ads or you're seeing these commercials come on TV, you're getting these mailers, you will be able to decipher what they're saying to you. Okay, so I'm going to move from left to right on this image, just really kind of breaking it down for you. Okay, so if you look, or the top line here, it says 30-year fixed. Okay, essentially what that means, this is a 30-year loan. So in 30 years, you should have paid this loan off in full if you're just making the minimum payments at an interest rate of 3.99%. Okay, and so I have the definition for an interest rate. It's essentially the cost you're paying the bank to use their money. That's really what the interest rate is. The next thing on that line is the APR. Okay, so generally when you see an interest rate, you will see an APR, and what the APR indicates, it's a combination of the interest rate expressed as a percentage, along with any cost that that lender may charge you for that loan. For example, an origination charge or a discount point, which is the next item there where it said points. It has 2 points, $6,000. In this particular scenario, somebody was looking at purchasing a $300,000 property, right? And so a point is simply a percentage. So $300,000 property times 2% is $6,000. So the point are what you're paying that lender to get a specific rate. Sometimes you're able to utilize points or discount points, as they're commonly referred to purchase a lower rate. But sometimes that's just the cost for the rate. So sometimes you'll have a point just for the rate. So when you're looking at some of these marketing or advertisements, when you see this information, I want you to remember, what an interest rate is, right? I want you to be mindful or look a little deeper, right, to see if it says anything about points. I want you to be well educated when you see these things where you don't fall into their trap. So a lot of people in this market, so I'll take a 3.125% rate. Rates are ticking toward 4%, right? But if I want that 3.125% rate, I'm going to pay 2.125 points. So $6,300 for me to get that rate. So the points are a part of your closing costs, right? So being prepared, having funds that you saved or set aside could potentially get you a cheaper rate that would essentially help you pay less for your home over the life of the loan if you keep it that long, right? So 30-year fixed. The fixed is important because your interest rate won't change. There are some advertisements or material that is say adjustable rate. So they're fixed rates and adjustable rates. An adjustable rate can change. Some adjustable rates do have a fixed period where the rate doesn't change, but your rate can change up to a certain limit with that specific rate. With rates being as low as they've been the last few years, an adjustable rate may or may not be um, the route you need to take, but that's just a conversation with your mortgage professional. You got questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. All right, next slide. All right, so this particular snippet is from realtor.com. And the reason that I wanted you all to see this is a lot of us in our journey of becoming a homeowner or even thinking about becoming a homeowner will use these mortgage calculators to determine how much our monthly payment would be, right? So in this particular scenario, this person is shopping for a $300,000 property. And I want you to kind of remember some of these numbers from this slide. We're going to talk about them a little later. But $300,000 property, $1,500 payment. But something that I really want you all to pay attention to, right, is this 20% down and $60,000. Okay. If I'm buying a $300,000 house, I don't want to put $60,000 into it, right? So this was the default calculator. And so a lot of people, when they use these mortgage calculators, it's by default, they have it set to 20% down. Okay. And so when we see this $1,500 payment, okay, yeah, I could do that. But can you come up with the $60,000? It's usually for a first-time home buyer, that's not realistic. So just pay attention to these mortgage calculators and adjust them properly. Next slide. Okay, so same scenario, but there are a couple other things that I want to point out. So we're still looking at a $300,000 property, okay? But there's some changes here. What I've done is I've gone in and adjust this payment calculator to fit an FHA loan. And that's, I'm putting 3.5% down versus that 20% down, right? So initially I was paying $60,000 down for a $300,000 property. Now I'm only having to come up with $10,500 toward that same property. Now it gives me a better idea of what that total estimated payment could be. So before, with me putting 20% down, 60,000 down, my mortgage payment was $1,500. with me putting 3.5% down. Now, a more realistic payment is around $2,000 a month. I want to point out here, as I mentioned earlier on that previous slide, when you see 30-year fixed loan at a 4.25%, that means that this rate shouldn't change, okay? Fixed rate. Usually on these mortgage calculators, they will have fixed rate options for you, but you can always go in and adjust it. Kind of moving down this image a little bit, it tells you what your principal and interest is. So the $1,400 is inside of that $2,000, and then you have your property taxes at $250 a month. So depending on where you are in the country, right, $250 may be a steal. You know, that's really low property taxes, but you have to be mindful when you're using these payment calculators, or when you see these payment calculators, just make sure it's realistic to where you are in the country and kind of what the taxes look like. Usually on like Realtor and Zillow, they will give you an idea further down the screen that says what the property tax history is on that particular property. So you can definitely get a good idea on what it can be, so you can adjust this payment calculator. Moving further down. So as I said, remember that previous slide, it didn't have mortgage insurance in there, right? And so that's why you hear a lot of conversation. It's old information, right? You no longer have to have 20% down to avoid mortgage insurance. Different lenders have different products where you can avoid mortgage insurance. If you're using, but that's usually with a conventional loan or a portfolio loan, essentially means that they hold that loan on their books and they service it. So they accept your payments. But with an FHA loan, if you use a traditional FHA loan, you will have mortgage insurance, no matter how much money you put down. So 20% isn't required. There are products with conventional financing that will allow as low as 3% down, but you usually have to have a little bit better credit, credit profile, income, debt to income ratio. You see, I'm using those words that I discussed. So we should know what our debt to income ratio is when we hear a lender use that terminology. So there are different avenues out there for you. So don't be discouraged by the information that you get from these online sites. Reach out to a mortgage professional. They will be more than happy to kind of explain the difference to you. Or if not, reach out to me and I'll have that conversation with you. Okay. Next slide. Okay, and so this is my final slide here. So what I want to leave you all with these are the common documents that you will need for the mortgage process. You'll need an unexpired license or ID. You'll need your most recent 30 days pay stubs, your most recent 2 years federal tax returns, especially if you're self-employed. Sometimes you can just get away with your most recent 2 years W-2s, and then you'll want to have your most recent 2 years bank statement or financial statements so we can see where your funds are coming from. Okay. You got questions? Ask in the chat. I'll be free later on to answer them for you. Brother Mitchell?
Oh, you know they got questions, man. This is the mortgage portion.
Yeah, man.
So
hey,
they ready to go for you. Nope. I'm moderator today, brother. So you're on the hot seat, Frat. No, the questions that came up. So so one of them said, I heard it said that we should use credit instead of debit. Is that accurate? So I'm thinking as it relates to, it's probably talking more along the lines of using hard credit, like credit cards, that sort of thing, as opposed to using things from the checking and savings account and things of that sort.
Yeah, and that's actually a good question, because actually probably the last week I've really implemented that strategy. So I'm using my credit cards probably a lot more than I ever have before, mainly because I want to get the benefit of my points and my cash back. So I'm using my credit card wisely though, because I'm only going to spend the money that I can afford to spend, right? Credit cards are not to be used. I'm going to blow some dough, right? But I don't have it, right? You're only going to spend the money that you have in your pocket to spend, right? And you're going to pay that card off before it's due because, you know, I work in the mortgage industry. I get paid from interest. I don't pay interest, right? And so I don't want you all to pay interest if you don't have to. So use the card, pay the card off, get the benefit from it, and move on.
Okay. Next question as it relates to DTI or debt to income ratios. They're asking, what's the best method to prioritize? What's the best method to prioritize which debt to pay off first in order to improve the debt to income ratios?
Okay. So I always tell people, you know, I can't answer that question for you, right? These are your pockets, right? You know what type of money that you have. If you say, hey, Tate, I got $20,000, I'm gonna pay off whatever you tell me to pay off, right? So I'm going to point to those items that I need you to pay off to make the deal work, depending on whatever your objective is. So we'll have that conversation. So if you have high interest credit cards, hey, I'm paying those off. And I may have to wait a little while to get a mortgage. I don't believe in paying high interest, right? And so I don't want you to pay high interest. So I would tackle those accounts first, and then just really depend on what your specific objectives are. That really kind of determines what to pay off first.
Okay, got it, bro. And then this is a quick one. Are USDA loans for first-time home buyers only?
No, anybody could use them, but you can have a property. So if you have a primary residence, they want you not to have a primary residence.
Okay.
So
last question is, can you speak on those, on using the various loans to start off with a multifamily home, such as a fourplex or 4-unit, and having tenants to pay off your mortgage or what have you?
Yep. So Jason, go into that.
Man, you ain't. All right, so real quick from that strategy, because I'm a mortgage professional as well. If you're looking at fourplexes or 4-unit properties, is how they're called in other areas. The strategy is to live in one unit and to have the other units essentially not only pay your mortgage but create, money generating, a money generating unit. So what most people do when they're looking at fourplexes or 4 units is they consider FHA mortgages. The reason why is because with FHA mortgage, you still only have to put 3.5% down to get up to a 4-unit property, which is crazy. It's very good. If you go the conventional route, you're probably likely going to put at least 15% down to purchase that property. So if you're thinking about it from that strategy, definitely talk with the mortgage professional and make sure they understand the guidelines because you can get a 4-unit property by going FHA with 3.5% down. It's actually even crazier if you're a VA, if you're a veteran, because there are ways that you can go up to 100% financing and get the same. So just make sure the underwriter understands, or the mortgage professional understands the guidelines, and he can direct you in the right path as it relates to that. Okay, so that's it, man. You done knocked these questions out the park. So I appreciate you, brother Anais. You were great information. The mortgages are always a big piece, a big question gathering portion of the presentation. So I appreciate it. So up next, we're gonna have Brother Fred Wilson, who's actually going to discuss insurance and some other things. So, Brother Fred, are you ready for us, sir?
I am ready to go. Ready to go.
Right. Yes, sir. All right, take it away.
All right, great. First, I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak and give some information. I'm excited, fired up about the information that we shared so far. It's been a lot of great information. One of the things that I want to allude to is that if there should be, I don't know how many people that we already have on the chat, but there should be 200 to 300 people that's already on the chat. And the reason why is because we're talking about money now, the Come Up Investor 101. There's something that's called the rules to the money game. And if we don't know the rules to the money game, there's no way that we can win. So if you were playing a game of spades, and I was to say, you know, I can cut the big joker, I can do all these crazy things, of course you wouldn't be able to win that game. These are some of the same type of stuff that's happening right now, okay, that has to deal with money. So what I'm going to do is kind of, you know, put a bow on everything and kind of wrap everything up for us as we get started talking about 3 layers of protection, okay? And also down the bottom, you see my Instagram, you also see my Facebook to get more information. All right, next slide. Okay, first we want to talk about protecting your income. And as you see the slide up front, you see a car. So these are some of the things that you have to protect. Okay, you have to protect these things. The first thing is car. So we're talking about car insurance. The next thing you see identity. You definitely want to protect your identity. The next thing is home. You want to be able to protect your home. The next thing is business, medical, and legal services. So when we're talking about 3 layers of protection, guys, you got to make sure that we protect these things. And the reason why is because, listen, we're talking about future money. We're talking about putting money in the future. We're talking about being able to save, retire, and live the lifestyle that you want to live. But if you don't have certain protections in place, then that's going to be kind of difficult for you to actually do. Okay, next slide. And here's one of my favorites. Now, guys, listen, this what we're saying here is this. What if you had a toaster in your kitchen, okay, and on the 1st and the 15th of every month, $2,000 popped out of it? Would you like that toaster? Most people would say, yes, I like that toaster. Would you insure that toaster? Most people will say, yes, $2,000 is coming out every single month, the 1st and the 15th. But listen, unfortunately, there's no such toaster, but you are the money machine for your family. Okay, so if it makes sense to insure an imaginary toaster, wouldn't it make sense to insure your income? And what we're talking about here is that on the 1st and the 15th, guys, that's your paycheck. That's the money that you're bringing in every 14 days. Every 2 weeks, you're bringing a paycheck home. But what's happening is a lot of people are not protecting the income that's coming into the household. And one of the things I always say is, look, with life insurance, because that's what we're talking about now. We're talking about protecting your assets. We're talking about having life insurance in place, okay? And I'm kind of touching on it on the next slide. Okay, nearly half, which is 43% of Americans have no life insurance coverage at all. Read that again. Nearly half, that's 43% of Americans have no life insurance at all. And roughly 50 million households in the United States are underinsured, with the average life insurance coverage gap is about 200,000. So what we're saying is this. First of all, you have almost half Americans don't have any coverage at all. So I'm going to talk about GoFundMe accounts and stuff later. But 50% of the people, guys, don't have any life insurance. So when people are dying, it pretty much are destroying families right now. And the ones that do have life insurance, okay, they're $20,000 insurance gap. So what that means is that we've been taught, keep your nose clean, you know, go to school. When you leave school, you're going to get that good government job. You're going to work for 20, 30, 40 years. You're going to retire. You're going to live on a hill with a white picket fence. And you're going to live happily ever after, and things are going to be great. But what's happening is that we're getting what's called burial insurance. We're getting insurance enough to bury you. We're not getting enough insurance to make sure that your income is protected. Because what we always say is that the life insurance is not for the living. Life insurance is for the people that you're going to leave behind. Those are responsibilities that you're going to leave behind. Because a lot of people always say, well, you know, when we talk about life insurance, I don't want to talk about dying. You know, none of us are getting out of here alive. Let me help you out with something. None of us are getting out of here alive. So if that's the case, what we want to do is make sure we protect our responsibilities that we leave behind. God forbid if something was to happen to us. Okay, next slide. And what I'm going to do here is kind of give you a synopsis on the 2 types of life insurances that are out here. You got 2 types of life insurance. You have cash value life insurance, which we call whole life insurance. Whole life insurance got different names: universal life, variable life. You got IUL, index universal life. They got a couple of different names that go along with it. But any life insurance policy that has a cash value with it is a whole life insurance policy, no matter what they call it, whether it's universal life, variable life, interest sensitive life, whole life. It's a whole life insurance policy. I'm going to give you an example of how it pretty much works. So, for example, we have a client here. We have John and Mary. John has 100,000. Mary has 100,000. Okay, they're paying about $225 a month for life insurance. at the age of 65, they accumulated about $76,000 in cash value. One thing about life insurance is this: when they say whole life insurance, you're going to pay for it for your whole life. Okay, you pay for it for your whole life. Okay, and then something was to happen to you, they will pay your death benefit to your beneficiaries that's left over. Now, but if we go back and look at that scenario there, that got 100,000, 100,000, they're paying about $225 a month. And at age 65, they have 76,000. Now, with our title is to come up, we're talking about Investing 101. A lot of people invest in life insurance policies. A lot of people use their life insurance policies as a savings account. So what they pretty much say is this: I can go borrow money. So some of my clients say, well, what type of life insurance do you sell? I want the kind that I can borrow money from. Listen, we're talking about life insurance. Life insurance is death protection. Life insurance is not a savings account. Okay. So that we go over to the other slide. Look at this. We said term on the other side, buy term and invest it different. So we look at the same scenario and we're looking at the same amount of money that's spent. Over here is John and Mary in another scenario has 250,000. Mary has 250,000. They saved about $145 a month. Okay, so look at this again. I don't want to keep going back to it. $225 you're paying a month, $80 you're paying a month. And this is the thing that get most people twisted right here, because they believe that I need to borrow money. Why would you want to borrow money that's already your money and then pay it back at a higher rate of return than what they're giving it to you on? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Our goal is, if you read the bottom line here, is we talking about community impact. Our goal is to impact the community on the right, habits that we should have. Let's look at this term program over here. People say, well, Fred, that's like buying. Okay, we just talk about renting, buying a mortgage. Now we were talking about renting insurance. What are we saying here? Term insurance, we give $250. Now that means that's a total of about $500,000 for $80 a month. We took the difference and we invested that. See, if you're going to invest money, this is how we're telling you to invest it. We're going to take the $145 that we freed you up. Of course, we just doubled your insurance. Now we freed you up $145. We're going to take that $145 and we're going to put that into an investment vehicle. Okay, we're going to put that into an investment vehicle, get you about anywhere from an 8, 9, 12, 9% rate of return. With that, at the same age of 65, we accumulated $265,000. So we don't have to be a rocket scientist to kind of figure this out. So we just look at both scenarios. Would you rather have $76,000 or would you rather have $265,000? Of course, you would want the $265,000 because not only do you have the $265,000, but guys, you're still alive. Okay, you're still alive. You still, you're alive right now. Okay, so which program would you want? Okay, next slide. As we go into the 30 decreasing responsibility. So what we're saying here is this. In the early years, you need a lot of coverage. The reason why you need a lot of coverage is because, as you see on the picture here, you might have young children, you may have high debt, you may have a household mortgage. So a loss of your income will be devastating to your family at that point in time. But as time goes on, your responsibilities are going to start to decrease. So as your responsibilities start to decrease, you need to have more money going towards your retirement or, at the end of the road. So if you look at that diagram there, see how we start off. If you look at the left-hand side, you see a husband and wife, you see them with a child, okay? On the other side, you see a husband and wife and there's no child. So what we're showing you now is how does term insurance pretty much work? Term insurance works best if you are saying that we are decreasing, okay, your responsibility. 45 years from now, let's say you have a 10-year, 15-year, 20-year, 30-year, or 35-year term program. If a child is 10 years old, 35 years from now, that child will be 45 years old, okay? At 45 years old, you're not looking to take care of a grown child. So that's why there's no child on the other side. 45 years or 35 years from now, you're not looking to take care of any debt because your debt should be paid off at that point in time. And if you bought a home today, 30 years from now, that house should be paid off. So once your responsibilities are taken care of, there's no need to continue to pay on something that's already taken care of. For example, if you was to pay off your house next month or next year, you're not going to call the mortgage company up and say, I want to continue to keep making payments. You're not going to do that. Why? Because my home is paid off. So what we're saying is that once your responsibilities are no longer there, there's no need to continue to keep paying on those different things. Okay, next slide. GoFundMe account. So I was telling you about now on crowdfunding platform, GoFundMe. I know a lot of people here to GoFundMe. I did a statistic today and I pulled some things up on COVID deaths. It's close to 1 million people have already died from COVID. We're talking about from 2019 up until today. And with that, here's some alarming statistics that go with GoFundMe accounts. Most people believe that I don't need to get life insurance. They said, well, I can just, if something was to happen, I can just go get GoFundMe. And just this statistic here is just saying this: 22,000 open funerals, tributes, and memorial campaigns, which collectively raised $40 million to date. So as of the date, GoFundMe has raised $40 million, and about 2,200 that's going towards the average person. Now, if you look at this a little bit further, the average donation for a GoFundMe account is about $65. Out of that $65, okay, $33 go towards the person that has passed away. $32 go to GoFundMe. So, okay, let's look at that again. Out of $65, $33 go towards the family. $32 go towards GoFundMe. So half the money that you're sending to GoFundMe, or people that are raising to go to GoFundMe, is going to GoFundMe. It's not going to that family to take care of the things that they need to take care of. Okay, so that's how I always tell people, GoFundMe is not life insurance. Okay, GoFundMe is a for-profit company. It says that business charges about 2.9% payment processing fee on every donation that comes in, with 30 cents for every actual donation. So our whole goal is to make sure that we get some life insurance in place. Okay, next slide. Okay, protect your income, future income. So we're going to talk a little bit, kind of dovetail on a little bit of what Zachary talked about a little bit. Just a couple of things I want to add to that. Next slide. The 3 different accounts. So when you're talking about investing, one of the things is this: there's 3 fundamental accounts that you need. The first account, when you're talking about investing, is having an emergency fund. So we always say put away about 3 to 6 months for your emergency fund of your monthly income that's coming in. Why do I want to do that? The reason why we want to do that is because when emergency comes up, most people use their credit card. Not all people. Most people use their credit card and they go swipe. If a car engine go up, you go swipe. If I need to get a roof, we go swipe. The water, the hot water heater go up, you go swipe in your card. So what we're saying is that, look, put 3 to 6 months of your income, the monthly income, in an emergency fund. And then the next one, we say short-term savings. These are the things that you want to prepare for, like putting a down payment on your house. Christmas time, you want to put some money away. Trips and vacations that you want to take, you want to put some money away for those things. And then the third thing is your long-term savings investments, which is your retirement. So if you were to have $100, I'm going to give you the breakdown of that. $50 will go towards your emergency fund. $25 will go towards your short-term savings, and $25 will go towards your long-term savings. Once you establish your emergency fund, you take that $50, you add that to the $25 that's your short-term savings, and now you have $75 going towards your short-term savings to accumulate what you have at that point, 6 to 10 months of savings. And then once we get to that point, we no longer need to fund that account. Then we take that $75, we put that towards the $25, which is your long-term savings investments, and then you do that for the long haul. That's putting away money for your nest egg so you'll be able to retire with some dignity. Okay, next slide. And as we finish up on the next 2 slides, what we're saying here is this. Look, Zachary did an excellent job on going over the skittles with how mutual funds and different things like that work. Give you another quick example. One of the most effective long-term investment vehicles are mutual funds. You have individual investors. That's us taking our money. We're pooling our money. We take it to a professional money manager. Okay, the money managers then take our money that we pull together to give to them, and he goes to the stock market. And these are some of the companies that he buy in. Some of the companies that I know that we heard of. I know you heard of Procter & Gamble. I know you heard of Febreze, Downey, Entertainment. You heard of Walt Disney. These are some. You heard of Pfizer, pharmaceutical company. Technology. You heard of Microsoft. Telecommunications, you heard of Verizon. So you heard of all these different companies. So when we're talking about savings, why do most people save money in a bank? Why do most people go save money in a savings account that's getting you 0.1% interest on your rate of return, when we have vehicles out here that can get you further along as far as being able to stack some money up and have you in a situation where as though, you can retire with some dignity. Okay, next slide. As we finish up, think long term. And we're talking about stocks right now. Stocks have generated positive returns, and we're talking about the negative and the positive, okay? Stocks have generated positive returns in every 15-year period since 1926, and we in 2022. So, for example, the first year, look at the positive returns, over 74%. In the 5-year period, that's up to 85%. In the 10-year period, okay? And then look at 15-year period time. You can take any 15-year periods, and stocks have generated a positive return. So it's not a thing to be, scared about investing. Most people don't invest money because they believe that they're going to lose that money. But it's the education or the lack thereof is going to determine how much money you're going to be able to have when it's time for you to retire. Okay, and to put some money away. Last slide. So as we finish up, another vehicle, Social Security and pensions may not provide enough income for retirement. A lot of people, as of right now, you don't hear of a lot of pensions anymore, because they are fading out pensions. That's why you have your 401ks, your 403bs, your 457s, your IRAs. That's why you have all those different types of programs now, because pensions are pretty much a thing of the past. And then your Social Security. Now we're saying that keep Social Security, keep your pensions, but you're going to need to supplement that income with some of these different vehicles, your 401ks, your IRAs, your different programs, okay? Some things that you can guarantee your income for life, which is the next slide, which is the annuities, another vehicle just to add on to what we're talking about. Okay, next slide. Your annuities, okay, annuities over guaranteed lifetime income and more. So we just give you some different avenues of some different places where you can put your money and let your money go to work. And one of the things that we always say is that you can never outwork money. Money works while you work. Money works while you sleep. So our goal is to give your money a job, put your money in the market, and let your money go work with you. Okay, when the market is closed here in the international market, your money is working. And when the international market is closed, your money is over here working. So give your money a job. Money don't get tired. Money don't call in sick. Like a lot of, money don't do none of those things. Money continues to keep working. So our goal is to give your money a job and let your money go work for you. And then to summarize everything on my last slide, here's some things that we want to kind of keep in mind. Maximize your IRAs and your 401k plans. You want to kind of maximize those different things. Make sure your portfolio has the growth potential recovery to keep up with rising costs. Right now, the inflation is at 7%. You know that by going to the gas tanks. Now they're saying the gas is like $4.90, when about 2 months ago it was in the threes. Okay, your money needs to keep pace with inflation. Putting your money in a savings account in the bank. I'm not saying all banks are bad, but your money is not keeping pace with inflation. You can't retire and live the lifestyle that you want to live. Take advantage of your Social Security benefits. Okay. Guarantee more income to life to help ensure that your essential and life experiences, that you'll be able to do some different things in retirement. And the last thing is, prepare for the unexpected. We always have to prepare for the unexpected, like COVID. Most people have about $1,000 in savings. When COVID hit, most people said when they couldn't go to work, they had to, depend on unemployment. By the time they waited for unemployment to come in and start, putting money back into their household because they couldn't go out and work because of COVID, people were losing houses. They was losing cars. They was losing everything. Why? Because they hadn't saved any money. They hadn't put any money away. So we might got to make sure that we are prepared for the unexpected things that's going to come up. So that's my part. I'm glad to be able to put a bow on everything. Again, thank you for allowing me to be able to speak and kind of give you some information. And thank you very much.
Brother Fred, yeah, you landed that plane well, man. Thank you so much for all of your information. So the one question that I have for you is, we know that the average family, the average household, the average person doesn't have more than $1,000 saved in their bank account, okay? I know one of your steps, you talked about the fastest way, talked about building an emergency fund first before you go short-term, long-term. What's one of the best strategies you would recommend to the people that you serve or the people on this call right now about doing that first step? Because that's often the hardest step to get people over that hurdle.
Jason, great question. One of the first things, and I always say this when I talk to anyone, all of my clientele, the first step is having a plan. Most people don't plan to fail, but they fail to plan because they don't have a plan in place. So what we do is sit down, put a plan in place to show you how to get from point A to point B. We strategize. It's not a one size fits all. We customize it to fit your certain situation because each person's situation is totally different. So the most important thing is sitting down, finding out where you are and where you want to be at. And then from that, we'll put different programs in place to kind of give you some information on how which program is going to work the fastest for you, which one's going to work long-term for you. Where should I put my money as far as a money market account to get the best rate of returns? When am I going to need the money in order to use it? You know, how soon? And for retirement, on the back end, where can I leave my money? It's going to be safe, and I don't have to worry about because what's going on in Ukraine, the market up, market down. Do I need to pull my money out? I see the numbers going down. I'm ready to jump off a roof, only because I'm not educated on the things about money.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's really helpful. That's a great takeaway that I know a lot of brothers, a lot of people need to hear, because again, they see that hump and they're like, well, somebody's telling me to save $1,000 to save $3,000. Only got $300 in my bank account. I'm trying to figure it out, right? So the strategy and building a plan, I think you're right. It's one of the most important things that you can do. Start with that, and then work your way into to get small wins, right? So thank you again, Brother Wilson. So this has been a lot of information, gents. It's been a lot of things that have been shared, a lot of things that have been impactful. There's been a lot of nuggets. So I appreciate all of the brothers for speaking on Investing 101. And we are right on time. So before we close out, there is a question that we have to answer, but I want to bring up brother Victor Peoples. And we are right on time. So to help us with an introduction that we need to make sure that we make, and then we'll answer that question and move forward. Brother Victor, you ready? To help us with an introduction that we need to make sure that we make, and then we'll answer that question and move forward.
Yes, I'm here.
All right. Go ahead, sir. Fire away.
Can you hear me? So before we go any further, I would be remiss if I did not introduce or thank our 23rd International Grand Panelist, Brother Sean D. Housen, Senior, for attending this evening. And I would like to also thank, of course, the panelists, Jason, for your moderation, Brother Reddick, Fred, Zach, and Anias. You guys did a phenomenal job. You know, this was great information, I think, that everyone received. And I hope everyone is going to tune in on the 22nd for a follow-up to all this financial information. I appreciate it. And behind the scenes, I have to be remiss if I did not thank Brother Gibbs Hightower. Appreciate you guys.
So much, sir. We appreciate you. So this is great. So yeah. And yeah, Brother Gibbs Hightower's behind the scenes doing all of this wonderful stuff right here that you can see, putting us in screens and all that. He's the MVP. So there was one last question. I think I just lost it. But there was a question in relation to and all of you all can chime in. It says some people say buying a home is not a true asset, it's more of a liability. What are your thoughts on this mindset? Brother Zachary, you can start, and then Brother Anias as well, and then we can wrap out with Brother Fred if possible.
Well, I know that Anias, who has a little bit more expertise than me in this field, but for me, I feel that being able to own a piece of land is something that we all should move towards. You got to understand that within America as a whole, we are not making any more land. So owning something, having a physical asset, and I mean, you can utilize a lot of different ways. You can house hack it. You can have your place moved into a multifamily property. You can Airbnb out a spare room to produce extra income. So don't just think of it as a liability when you're going into a property. You have a space. And so with technology now, there's a lot of different ways that you can utilize that space. So you can be creative with it if you do want to produce and have extra income come from it.
All right, great. Brother Nice.
So what I would say to that, that's a mindset, right? Is it an asset or is it a liability? My opinion, it's definitely an asset, as brother Zach mentioned. They're not making new land unless you go into the metaverse, and I don't know how that's going to work in the real estate world. But I'll give a quick example here. So in my market here in Arkansas, 2 years ago, somebody could buy a $70,000 property, right? 2 years ago, that same $70,000 property today is a $200,000 property. Now, it's not going to happen all the time that way, but whatever I invested 2 years ago, $70,000, and I could turn around and sell it this year for $200,000, sounds like an asset to me. So, depending on where you are in the country, I can understand that mindset that it may be a liability, depending on what really needs to go into it. But I'm of the opinion that it's always an asset, because if you're living somewhere, you're paying to stay somewhere, unless you're living at home with your parents, something like that. But if you're living on your own, you're going to pay to live somewhere. So you might as well pay yourself.
I love it. Brother Fred, you got anything you want to chime in on this question?
Not really. I just want to add to it, though. It is a mindset. It is how you look at it. And I think a lot of times people see asset and liabilities through other people's eyes of what they believe it is instead of what they believe it is for themselves. So I will always say it was an asset. It's better to have and not need than to need not have.
Yeah, and I guess I'll round it out. So I also do believe it's an asset as opposed to a liability. Now, this can go down a rabbit hole because depending on where you purchase a home, it can be considered an asset. You want to make sure that you do proper inventory and research to make sure that the property that you're investing or purchasing in is on an upward trend. You also want to be mindful right now, as far as the pandemic is concerned, of how that pandemic affected the property or the area that you live in. Some of us live in smaller areas or rural areas. Some of us live in more lower to moderate income areas. Some live in higher income areas. The pandemic has a tremendous effect on all of those, depending on where you're living. So be mindful of the trends. Be mindful of looking at your properties to make sure that you're assessing proper value. And you can literally go online and look at 1 year, 2 year, 3 year trends, 10-year trends as far as where the market is. Okay. Because what you don't want is to purchase a home and it immediately becomes a liability because you're underwater in 2 to 3 years, just because of the fact that you purchased in an area where it was heavily affected by the market, and the market is delayed. So what we're seeing in the pandemic, and I'll wrap, again, it's a rabbit hole. What we're seeing as far as the pandemic is concerned can be a late trend. So we're in the pandemic now, we're 2 years in, right? The things that are happening from a housing perspective are going to be on a 2-year delay, 1 to 2 year delay, where you'll see a fair level of impact of what's really happening. So just be mindful of that, and you can kind of work through that issue. So without further ado, I think we're done. We wrapped 2 minutes early. So to all the panelists, Red, I don't know if you're still here, but Red, I appreciate you. Appreciate all of the brothers that are the panelists on here. Appreciate Brother Gibbs, Brother Victor for coming on and introducing our IGP, International Grand Polaris. It's been awesome. And, we're here to serve. So if you have takeaways, if you have any questions or ideas on how we can make this better for you all, let us know. That's why we're here. Okay, to continue to build and never rest. But with that being said, love you guys. Love everybody that attended, and we'll see y'all in the next one.